In yesterday's video views, I talked about the start of Tigray conflict. I informed what happened on the 3rd and 4th of November. Ethiopian National Defense Forces, supported by Amhara Regional Forces, Afar Regional Forces, and Eritrean forces launched an offensive on Tigray on the 4th of November. Tigray was put under a communication blackout. It was put under a blockade. No one was allowed to enter or leave Tigray. What happened after the 4th of November? Which areas were targeted first by Ethiopian National Defense Forces? From which side main offensive on Tigray was launched? This is the most important question for me from strategic point of view, from military strategy point of view. Viewers, main offensive on Tigray was launched from Gondar side. We saw heavy fighting in the first week of November after the start of this war in Dansha and Humera, viewers. Kafta, Humera, Warida and Dansha. We saw heavy fighting between Ethiopian National Defense Forces supported by Amhara forces and Tigray Defense Forces. So the first week of Tigray war was mainly about ENDF and Amhara offensive on Humera and Dansha. Why is that Amhara forces and ENDF chose Humera and Dansha as their first targets in this war? Firstly, viewers, Eritrean forces provided artillery cover to Ethiopian National Defense Forces when ENDF launched an offensive on Humera. And that artillery cover helped ENDF a lot. For almost 2 days, Eritrean forces continued indiscriminate and heavy artillery shelling on Humera, viewers. Not only were civilians targeted indiscriminately, but TDF also suffered heavy losses in Humera. On the 10th of November, Humera airport came under the control of Ethiopian National Defense Forces. Tigray Defense Forces tried to hold on to Humera, viewers, but it was a mistake which they learned later that they cannot hold on to urban areas. So they had to withdraw from Humera, and after the 10th of November, Humera was being partially controlled by Ethiopian National Defense Forces and Amhara Regional Forces. Eritrean forces were not in Humera. They were in Eritrea, on Eritrea side of the border, but from Eritrea side of the border, they were shelling Humera. Heavy shelling was conducted and TDF had to withdraw from Humera. And after the withdrawal of TDF from Humera, TDF changed their strategy, viewers. Humera was the only town, in my view, which TDF tried to hold on to. But they learned that they cannot hold on to urban areas, that air strikes are being conducted, drone strikes are being conducted, artillery strikes are also being carried out. So in this scenario, it was almost impossible for TDF to hold on to urban areas. From Humera onwards, TDF decided to withdraw from major towns. We did not see heavy fighting in other towns after Humera. TDF learned their lesson from war in Humera. They should not try to hold on to urban areas. They should keep their capabilities, their operational strength intact, and move towards guerrilla warfare. So for me, withdrawal of TDF and losses suffered by TDF in Humera were strategically very important. That was perhaps the start of realization for TDF that only guerrilla warfare can work in Tigray. Secondly, in the first week of this war, we saw a deadly massacre in Maikadra. Maikadra is situated in Kafta Humera war. Here, more than 600 innocent civilians were killed on the night between the 9th and 10th of November. Who killed these hundreds of innocent civilians? Both the parties accuse each other. Ethiopian Human Rights Commission have published an investigative report into Maikadra massacre. Ethiopian Human Rights Commission blames Samri militia, which is a TPLF youth militia. The Human Rights Commission says that Samri militia members committed Maikadra massacre, and most of the killed were Amharas. TPLF rejects this report because TPLF says that there must be an independent international investigation into the massacre committed in Maikadra. Whoever committed this massacre, but hundreds of innocent civilians were killed in Maikadra on the night between the 9th and 10th of November. Maikadra was the first ethnic massacre in Tigray after the start of this war. Another important development in the first week of this war was about some key changes which Ethiopian government did. Burhanu Jula was appointed as Ethiopian army chief. Ethiopian federal government changed intelligence head and foreign minister of Ethiopia in the first week of this conflict. Then heavy airstrikes and drone strikes were conducted in the first week of this war by Ethiopian National Defense Forces, and UAE's drones appeared in the first week as well. UAE's drones, which were stationed on Asab military base in Eritrea, were involved in carrying out airstrikes on TPLF and TDF leaders. And these drones made a big difference because of these drones. TDF had to resort to guerrilla warfare. After losing Humera and after seeing the deadly role of UAE's drones, TDF changed their military strategy, and they decided to gradually withdraw from key towns and cities and move towards guerrilla warfare, which is working in Tigray now for TDF. In the next video, we'll talk about what happened after the fall of Humera. Humera came under complete control of ENDF on the 12th of November, viewers.